tonight, all kinds of businesses are struggling to find enough workers, and you often hear comments that people don't want to work these days. One Maine employer, at least, has proof that there are still a lot of dedicated workers out there. 207's Don Kerrigan is here with that story. Hey, Don.
Hi, they sure are proving that. It's Bath Iron Works, where thousands and thousands of Maine people have gone to work over the last 100+ years at what are some of Maine's best paying manufacturing jobs. And some of those workers like the job so much, they stay right there for 40 years. Long before the dry dock and the big blue cranes were built, Dan Netto made the trip from Madawaska to Bath looking for work.
I kept calling these guys, daily, sometimes twice a day, for about 3 months, and then they got sick and tired of hearing from me.
It was June 1982. He was fresh out of vocational school in Presque Isle as an electrician. He got the job interview.
He said, I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. He says, we'll see what we'd come up with. And I said, well, look, I drove down here last night. I got my tools in the truck. I got my clothes. I'm ready to go to work tomorrow morning, this afternoon if you want me to, but I'm not coming back. So this is a one-shot deal. If you want me, I'm here right now.
He admits it was cocky, but it worked. That Friday afternoon, Dan was hired.
I said, well, you want me to come in tomorrow morning? He says, no, you come Monday. So I came in Monday and
never left.
Never left. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen.
Dan Netto, Director of Ground Assembly, said this is
And 2 weeks ago, Dan Netto joined dozens of fellow workers at the yard as they were honored for 40 years of service to BIW, designated Master Shipbuilders.
This company, it's not just a job, it's a career. And the jobs kept coming at me my whole career. And challenges came at me and kept me really interested in the business.
Dan started at the bottom in the electrical department and says one of his very first assignments was being sent to the top of the big crane.
Go change the light bulb at the tip of the boom.
He and a co-worker made the long climb, and Dan says the other guy dropped the old bulb.
So I went down to the office and said, look, something happened. I need to tell you what happened. And he just looked at me and he says, well, you got all the area quarantined? I said, yeah. He says, I want to know if you were going to go up there. I just want to know if you were scared of heights or not. You passed the test, he says. I can go back to work. Yeah, that's a true story.
Those were the days of the old BIW, when they launched destroyers down the ways into the river. For Dan, there was no place to go but up, and he started climbing the company ladder, becoming a supervisor in maintenance and then bigger jobs. Lots of changes over the years, he says, but the biggest came when BIW was purchased by defense giant General Dynamics.
And I fully believe today, if it not were for General Dynamics, who I purchased this company in '95, we likely would not have a company here. They invested several $100 million in this plant. Not every company can do that.
It changed how they built and launched ships for the Navy. And Dan changed as well, becoming the yard's safety director, and has made other management moves in the years since. He retired in July as Director of Ground Assembly. And his retirement may symbolize what happened over the last 5 years or more, as BIW has seen thousands of its most experienced shipbuilders retire. That generational shift has forced the company to get more intense about recruiting and training new, unskilled people.
And with the remaining experienced people we have expediters and work leaders, those people oversee the young ones. And I'll tell you, they're doing a good job.
Will those people stay 40 years?
I think if we can sustain the workload, stability makes everything happen.
Dan sees part of stability as delivering what the Navy wants, so it will continue to order more ships.
The important thing is when that ship sails down the river on time, the Navy's happy about their product, and the sailors who get on that ship are amazed at what they got for a product to go fight. That's what matters in the end.
That work, of course, is now happening without Dan Netto, but the job clearly is still part of him. Do you miss it yet?
I really miss the people. Yeah. Coming to work every day and talking to people.
And he says one management lesson has stuck with him, that most of those he worked with want to be proud of what they do.
Try to enable them to do their jobs, right, and be successful. Most people want a good day's work when they leave here at the end of the day and feel good about themselves. My job is to make sure that happens.
Lessons learned from 40 years on the job. Interesting point. Dan comes from a family tradition of dedicated workers. His father worked at the paper mill in Madawaska also for 40 years. And Samantha, Dan says that he's not ready to actually be retired yet. He's looking at some things. He's working on a construction project at the moment. Says he might also consult, possibly even with bath iron work.
Wow, you know, I can seem to think of somebody else who's put in at least 40 plus years on the job, and it is quite an accomplishment and an example that you guys are setting.
There are a lot of those people around, you know.
Absolutely.